In 1896, something happened that still sounds almost unbelievable even by modern standards. A real, officially declared war began and ended in less than a single hour, changing the future of an entire island in under 45 minutes. This was not a legend or an exaggerated story told over generations. It was a documented military conflict between one of the most powerful empires on Earth and a small but strategically important African sultanate. At that time, the British Empire controlled territories across nearly every continent. Its navy dominated the seas, and its political influence reached far beyond Europe. Zanzibar, meanwhile, was a relatively small island off the eastern coast of Africa. But despite its size, it was wealthy, active, and deeply connected to global trade routes. Ships loaded with spices, ivory, and other valuable goods arrived and departed daily. The island had become one of the most important commercial hubs in the Indian Ocean region. Although Zanzibar had its own sultan and government, Britain held enormous political influence there. In reality, the island operated under heavy British supervision and pressure. Everything changed suddenly on August 25, 1896. The ruling sultan, Hamad bin Thuwaini, died unexpectedly under circumstances that raised immediate suspicion. His death created instant instability within the palace. Political factions moved quickly, each trying to secure power before the British could intervene. Within hours, a man named Khalid bin Bargash entered the palace complex and declared himself the new Sultan of Zanzibar. He acted swiftly, hoping speed would secure his claim. However, Khalid made one critical mistake. He took the throne without first receiving approval from the British authorities, who effectively controlled foreign policy on the island. Britain had already chosen a different candidate for the throne. They supported Hamad bin Mohammed, a man they believed would cooperate fully with their interests. The British consul delivered a direct and uncompromising message to Khalid. He was ordered to step down immediately and vacate the palace before 9 o'clock the next morning. The ultimatum was clear and left no room for negotiation. If Khalid refused to comply, military action would follow without hesitation. But instead of surrendering his claim, Khalid chose defiance. He believed that showing strength might force Britain to reconsider its position. He began gathering supporters inside the palace grounds. Approximately 2,800 men assembled, including palace guards, civilians, and loyal fighters. Artillery pieces were positioned facing the harbor. An old royal yacht was even equipped with mounted guns in preparation for a potential naval confrontation. Meanwhile, in the waters just offshore, British naval ships calmly took position. Their steel hulls reflected the morning light as their cannons were carefully aimed at the palace. The British squadron included modern warships armed with powerful artillery. Compared to Zanzibar's outdated defenses, the technological gap was enormous. As dawn approached on August 27th, tensions spread throughout the city. Civilians watched from a distance, unsure whether they were about to witness history or disaster. The clock moved steadily toward the deadline. British officers waited with precision and discipline, checking watches and relaying final orders across their ships. 9 o'clock arrived exactly as promised in the ultimatum. Smoke drifted lightly across the harbor, and Khalid remained inside the palace, refusing to step down. At precisely 9:02 in the morning, the first British shell was fired. Within seconds, multiple cannons erupted in synchronized thunder across the water. Explosions tore through the wooden structures of the palace complex. Splinters, smoke, and debris filled the air as buildings began to collapse. Zanzibar's artillery attempted to return fire toward the British ships, but their cannons lacked both range and accuracy against the heavily armored vessels offshore. One of the Sultan's largest guns was destroyed almost immediately by direct impact. The royal yacht that had been prepared for battle was quickly sunk in the harbor. Flames began spreading across the palace roof. Thick black smoke rose high above the island, visible from miles away. Panic swept through the city streets as civilians fled for safety. The thunder of artillery echoed continuously, shaking windows and rattling walls. The bombardment was relentless, but short. British forces maintained constant fire, targeting strategic points within the palace grounds. Within less than half an hour, large sections of the palace had been reduced to burning ruins. The defensive positions of Khalid's forces were collapsing rapidly, casualties mounted among the defenders. Many were untrained civilians caught in a conflict far beyond their control. British forces, protected by distance and superior equipment, suffered only minimal injuries. Their dominance in naval warfare made the outcome almost inevitable. By approximately 9:40 in the morning, organized resistance had effectively ceased. The palace was devastated, and the Sultan's forces were scattered. Realizing defeat was unavoidable, Khalid made a desperate decision. He escaped through a rear exit of the palace complex while chaos consumed the front grounds. He fled directly to the German consulate located nearby. At the time, Germany also held colonial interests in East Africa and maintained diplomatic presence on the island. The British surrounded the consulate but chose not to invade it. Entering would have created an international incident between two European powers. After tense negotiations and careful planning, Khalid was secretly transported under German protection to territory controlled by Germany. His brief claim to power was over. With resistance eliminated and the palace destroyed, British authorities moved quickly to restore order. They installed Hamud bin Mohammed as the new sultan. Hamud agreed to all British demands without resistance. Under his rule, Zanzibar became even more firmly integrated into British imperial control. The entire military conflict lasted somewhere between 38 and 45 minutes, depending on historical estimates. It remains the shortest officially recorded war in modern history. What makes this event so extraordinary is not just its speed. It is the dramatic imbalance of power displayed in less than 1 hour of violence. A single refusal to obey imperial instruction triggered overwhelming military force. The consequences were immediate, visible, and irreversible. For Zanzibar, the war marked the effective end of meaningful independence. Political authority shifted decisively into British hands. For the British Empire, the event demonstrated naval supremacy and willingness to enforce political control through rapid, decisive action. Today, many people have never heard of this conflict. Yet it serves as a powerful reminder of how imperial politics shaped the fate of smaller nations. In under an hour, leadership changed, buildings fell, and history took a different direction. Few wars in human history have unfolded so quickly. Less than 1 hour was enough to decide sovereignty, reshape governance, and reinforce colonial dominance in East Africa. And that is how the shortest war in recorded modern history ended almost as soon as it began, leaving behind smoke, silence, and a rewritten future.